You're listening to the Run for Your Lives podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. I'm Daphne.
And I'm Pake.
And this is the Run for Your Lives podcast.
This episode is the supernatural horror film It, Chapter 2, directed by Andy Muschietti and released on September 6th, 2019. That's right, our residency in Derry is coming to an end. We've been living here for a while. Things are starting to get real weird, so...
Yeah.
Figure we'll do one last hurrah, and then we're going to pack up our stuff and get out of this town.
Well, I mean, Richie really set the bar with that, so we should follow his lead with this.
Yeah. It's been a fun stay. We've had some good times. We've met some interesting people, but
yes,
it's time to move on, you know?
Yeah.
We've got another town we need to head to, right?
We do. We do, and we're heading there a lot sooner than anyone would think.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the month of October. We are continuing our It-tober event, and as Pake said, this is it. We're not going to be...
This is it, yes.
Yeah, this is it.
It's been it.
It's been
for like a month. It's been it for a month.
It-tober is coming to an end with the final movie in the It franchise. Thank you, Mr. Andy Muschietti, for bringing it to us. And we will be closing the door on this franchise with this podcast.
Which door are we closing? Regular scary this time. Just go regular scary.
Regular scary, yeah.
Neither of the other ones.
Yeah. I'd rather there be a Pomeranian behind the door than some of the other stuff that I've seen, like legs, disembodied legs walking at me.
She just wants her shoe.
She does, but how is she talking? She doesn't have a face.
By the power of magic.
Okay.
And love and sunshine and rainbows.
Okay.
And Pomeranians.
Okay. I can tell already that this is going to be a barrel of fun. We are recording probably definitely later than we usually do.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to apologize if this podcast is hilarious, because it very well could be, despite the fact that we're covering a horror film.
Right.
It could end up being ridiculous, but it's okay.
Yes.
We always have fun, and this will be no exception. Before we dive into it, I'm going to give you some production notes.
All right.
So, unlike It Chapter 1, this one was filmed in Port Hope, Ontario. And why I say unlike It Chapter 1, which was filmed in Port Hope, Ontario. The first film had some scenes and filming that took place in the U.S. in Maine. This one did not. So although they were both filmed in Port Hope, only the first film had something filmed in Maine. Of course, it's based on the 1986 novel of the same name by Stephen King. I feel like I'm repeating myself every week because I am. Chapter 2 was released nearly, and I mean within days of being 2 years after Chapter 1. Stephen King did have a cameo in this one as the shopkeeper.
Mm-hmm.
The budget was $79 million. It grossed $473.1 million. It's the second highest grossing Stephen King film adaptation behind 2017's It. Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's 169 minutes.
Nice.
I knew you were going to do that.
Yeah.
And at 169 minutes, it's the longest horror film that was given a wide theatrical release. I have opinions about this. It is a very long one, and we had a little conversation before we started recording, and I kind of think it was a little long. Could have trimmed it down just a little bit. However, It is 169 minutes. Pake, give us a synopsis of It Chapter 2.
All right. 27 years after their first encounter with the terrifying Pennywise, the Losers Club have grown up and moved away until a devastating phone call brings them all back.
Oh, Mike Hanlon.
Mm-hmm.
This was kind of different in the way that it opened. Like, they skipped a lot of the traveling time that we saw in the miniseries, where, like, John Ritter as Ben Hanscom came into town and went down and revisited old ghosts.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't really get to see that. So they skipped a few things. But that's not how the film actually started.
Right. There's other stuff.
There's other stuff.
But yeah, we'll get there.
Yes, we will.
Eventually. Yeah. So I figure we go same way we always do, same way we have been, breaking down characters. So we jump around all over the place based on what character we're talking about. We might mix things in and out a little bit because we can never stay 100% in little boxes because that's not even fun anyway. So
no,
we do what we do. So there may be some really big movie moments that it seems like we skipped, but we probably didn't. We'll probably just circle back to them at a later character analysis or time.
Yes.
In the episode. So I think I remember kind of the same order we've been doing things.
Bill.
Yeah.
Bill Denbrough every time.
Bill. So, why change it? Let's kind of...
If it's not broken, we will stick with what's working. It has worked for the last 3 episodes. It will work for this one. It will work.
It will. We'll talk Bill. And then that also will include some kind of wide-reaching points about the whole group. Like, I'm going to go ahead and say I'm going to recap and kind of break down the whole final battle again under this first section of Bill, because that's what I do.
Yes.
Because everybody's involved, so Bill's involved, so we'll make it happen.
Yeah. He is the leader. He's the one who manages to pull people back together. That is one thing that has been constant through this, is him as the leader, him pulling people back in together, him taking charge, or, leading what needs to happen.
Yeah.
In this particular movie, it was really, drilled home how guilty Bill feels about the death of his brother.
Yeah, there's a lot of self-blame and guilt. And of course, Pennywise, is going to be really digging into that a lot and trying to use that. And as we see here with Bill, very specifically, guilt that Pennywise is taking advantage of and using against him.
He's exploiting it, yeah.
Yes.
He is. He's looking at Bill, knowing what his fear is, knowing what he carries with him, exploiting it for his own benefit. Mm-hmm. He feeds on fear, as we know. He feeds on fear. Always has.
Yeah. And he does that, which we didn't see in the first part, like not in the miniseries or even in chapter 1 of the Muschietti movies. It's not because in the first one, when they were kids, he focused more on just the things that they are, scared of, superficially. But then here, it's a lot more advanced, and he's really playing off of their personal insecurities and regrets and guilt and shame and things that that are a lot more personal and harder held to than just childhood fears.
Yes. Because some of them in particular, Beverly is one, had such a difficult childhood that it's very easy for it to manipulate situations to bring her to her knees, basically, and terrorize her. It terrorizes the Losers Club.
Mm-hmm. Hey, she said it. I win.
I did not say I agree with it. I just said it. Because that was an ongoing theme in this movie.
Mm-hmm. but Bill specifically, yeah, a lot of it is the guilt, which a big part of his guilt and the way that Pennywise gets to him is through this kid Dean, and I have some interesting thoughts about that.
Oh man, that was rough. We see him a couple of times in this movie.
Yeah, I've got some interesting thoughts there, which I'll probably get to soon. Those points bounce around, but I think I'll give them to Bill when we get there. But yeah, of course, where we really see Bill, James McAvoy playing him as the adult Bill, and same as the miniseries, he's this prolific author who's working on a screenplay for a movie adaptation of his own book. In this one, they're really focusing on not just, they want a new ending. They don't like his endings. Your books are great, but we don't like your endings. I feel like Stephen King was writing about himself a lot here in this movie.
Yes.
Through the character of Bill Denbrough, right?
That was a never-ending theme. It just kept going over and over again. Like, different people were talking about it. It's like,
right.
I don't like your endings. Yeah, even Stephen King, in his cameo, said that after Bill asked if, would you like me to sign this for you?
Nah, I didn't like the ending.
After he charges him highway robbery for silver.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think that's kind of Stephen King was very self-conscious about that a lot as an author before. I think it doesn't bother him as much now if he's able to joke about it in this movie here. But yeah, that was kind of a big thing with King, is these incredible stories and incredible gripping characters and situations, and then just never really quite stuck the landing the way people wanted, right?
No, there are a few of those.
So yeah, he put us. There's a lot of Stephen King himself in Bill in this movie.
Yeah, I like James McAvoy in this role. I thought he did a decent job.
Yeah.
But I think the stuttering, was better in the first film than what he did in this one.
I didn't have any problem with it. I thought he did really well.
You thought he did really well?
Personally, yeah.
Well, we will have different opinions, which does not happen that often on this podcast, but we are allowed to have different opinions.
Yeah, we just have to, when we get to San Francisco, we're going to have to fist fight over it, and whoever wins is the winner. No, I'm kidding.
We're going to have a fist fight. Yeah. Do you want to call Aubrey Edwards in to referee it for us?
Yes, please.
Okay, I thought so.
Then I could talk about video games with her more. I didn't get to talk to her very long in Vegas.
I know. But it was fun, right? I mean, you did get your picture with her when that was not really happening that much. You had to sign up for AEW Heels, and oops, who did that? That was me. Let's get back on it.
It's great getting everybody back together. I'm talking about it already because it's next in my notes, because a lot of other character things happen, but Chinese restaurant reunion. Here it is. I love seeing them all back together. I love that they still did the Chinese restaurant. They're all back together. Well, mostly all of them. R.I.P. Stan. But it doesn't take them long to get right back into all the jokes and the teasing. It's like they haven't lost a single step. From the Losers Club of old.
Loved Eddie and Richie. They just continue to have this relationship, and as ridiculous as the way that Richie in particular teases Eddie, I just find it so endearing between the two of them, because it doesn't come from a place of malice, it comes from a place of love.
Yeah. It's like they have that close of a relationship where they can seriously just insult each other and say fuck you back and forth to each other, and it's out of love. Yeah.
We love that. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. And then, all the memories are flooding back, which is nice for, all the good times and the points of bonding and all of those kind of moments. But then they also have all the other memories flooding back, and they start remembering the feeling of fear of Pennywise the Clown, of it.
Yeah.
And that's the first time we see Bill's stutter return, when they start talking about that fear.
Yeah. Well, they talked about, too, the farther away people get from Derry, the more you forget. They basically forgot, but didn't realize that they were forgetting people that they knew. Like, they moved away from Derry, and that was it. They forgot everybody.
Yeah, it's like they didn't even really remember each other that well at all until they're back together. And there's like little things. I think I forgot to point out earlier. I mean, when Bill gets the phone call from Mike and his hand, that scar, which, man, those scars are really there. It's like, yeah, because then I'm thinking back to the first part. I was like, yeah, Bill was cutting pretty deep with that glass.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that, like, his scar, like, his hand is hurting him. That scar is, like, paining him whenever Mike calls and he's talking, when he's remembering. It was pretty interesting.
How do you have a scar like that and not remember where it came from?
Right.
I mean, really.
I guess the same way you forget that you even, like, grew up in a town of Derry.
Because they did.
Mm-hmm.
None of them really talked about their childhood outside of it. They all went on to lead these lives and really weren't concerned about Derry or, nothing to do with it.
Yeah. So, of course, with remembering all this fear, that's the worst time, but the time that Mike picks to remind them or really tell them why he brought them all there. Because I guess it was more of a, hey, you all made a promise to return when I called you, and then they just did without really knowing why. They didn't remember a lot of the whole Pennywise thing about it. They just knew that, if something happened, we have to go back and we have to hold ourselves to that. And so they did. But then once Mike is able to kind of spill out exactly what's going on and why they're back, they don't want it to have anything to do with it. And they all scatter to the winds and are like, nope, we're leaving. We're out of here. Except for Bill, who Mike takes back to his house / the library.
He lives above a library. Now, I actually have friends that would find that very cool. Mm-hmm. I don't think I'd want to because it might creep me out. I've seen too many things. These movies in particular, it's like, no, I don't think so.
Right. Yeah, but all these years, Mike has somehow found a way to kill it permanently.
Yes.
So he thinks. This old Native American vessel, artifact, he takes Bill on a surprise ayahuasca-like spirit journey, right? Not cool.
No.
Necessary, perhaps, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's not cool. Not cool.
Friends don't drug friends without telling them
No. They definitely don't.
Yeah. But then Mike calls what the root that he was using and what the native leader gave him, he calls it Maturin.
Yes.
Which is the name of the giant, powerful turtle being from the book that is like the antithesis of it.
Ooh.
Which there's way too much lore there to even think of diving into, but that is the reference that they're making there is kind of the, billions year old being that kind of is the other side of it, is the good being. His name is Maturin. So that they threw that reference in there kind of under the radar is cool.
So next year, Peg, for Halloween, we're going to read over the next year, because it's going to take us a year, we'll start reading it.
Oh, yeah. I'll read the book soon-ish, maybe.
And we'll talk
perhaps.
about it. We can talk about it.
Yeah. And I'm getting into Mike notes, but it connects, so.
And you're moving on. I mean, you didn't really talk about... Or are you saving the Chinese restaurant experience?
Yeah. We'll get there. We'll get there. Yeah.
Good.
Actually, I have that more like Pennywise notes, but I have notes.
Okay. All right.
But we'll talk about whatever. Whenever. Whenever. We talk about the clown and stuff. I don't have a good parody. But yeah. So the story that Mike is telling Bill, these visions that he's kind of giving him, show it in its true form. The Deadlights is this entity from space that landed on Earth very long ago and has appeared to people in the form of all of their fears. So more prehistoric times, eagles and wolves and mythical legendary creatures and all these. And then as it's adapted with society, now it's a clown most of the time.
Oh my God.
Seems to be a more running fear for people. But they supposedly had figured out a ritual to defeat it, this ritual of Chud. Of course, if this ritual is established, then why is it still alive in there? You wouldn't know that it works for sure unless it actually works for sure, right? So
but he's
clearly
there. I mean, he's still there. It's still there.
So clearly maybe it doesn't work. as we see. The whole ritual plot line becomes kind of just a red herring of the movie, where they're like, finally we have it, and then it's like, oh, you thought that was going to work? Ha, that's funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this ritual then requires each person to, on their own, find an artifact of their past that connects the pieces, something meaningful that will restore their memories. And so I have just kind of a list real quick of what those things were for them. Stan, so they can find his since he's not there to do it, which is the shower cap from that memory. Bev's is the postcard and the poem given to her by Ben. Richie's is a token from the arcade. Ben's is the yearbook page that Bev had signed. Bill is the boat that he made for Georgie. Eddie is his inhaler. And Mike is the rock that Bev hit Bowers with when saving Mike in the first part.
Rock fight! So much fun.
Yeah. So Bill's got to take off to find his artifact. But first, he goes into the antique store to buy his bike Silver from Stephen King. Which King has some funny moments.
He does.
Here. Talked about the would you like me to sign it? Nah, I didn't like the ending.
Yeah.
But even when he's just like, again, those memories come back, but then he's also struck down, so he's really struggling with his stutter. Bill is, to where he's like, I'd like to buy the and he can't get off of that B. He can't get past it. And Stephen King's shopkeeper character here just baseball card, bowling ball, banjo, beaver.
It was great. Yeah, he's a main treasure.
Yes, he's a treasure from Maine, but also he's just like one of the main treasures of people that exist.
Yes.
So.
Yes, agreed.
But, yeah. If you have any notes about that, or I'll move on.
I
still have more Bill stuff for sure.
Well,
I don't feel like I'm taking over all the conversation.
Well, it's funny because, Mike tells his story, and while Bill's drugged. And then after he explains the ritual, and Mike says, we don't have much time. And at that point I looked and said, but we still have 2 hours of the film left.
We've got so much time, Mike. So much time.
That's just one of a few funny things I have to say about this movie. Just one.
Man, what is going on? Daphne's the one that's bringing the snark in the comedy.
I can't help it.
What's happening?
I don't know. It's weird.
All right. You ready for another tangent? That's hopefully pretty quick. But
I am always ready for a tangent. So what do you have to say?
All right. Talking about, Pennywise really messing with them on insecurities, personal regrets. Going forward with Bill's story here. Bill as a kid. We get a flashback of him as a kid at the sewer grate, or the storm drain, asking Pennywise, why would you take Georgie? Out of all the kids, why Georgie? And his response, because you weren't there, Billy.
Oh my God.
Which did Bill Skarsgård as Pennywise sound like Winnie the Pooh in this movie so much?
Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello, Vicky.
Yes.
Oh, bother.
That's more like, oh my God. Oh God, that's great. I didn't think of it that way.
And then he runs into Dean, this kid Dean. And there's a theory going around. I've seen it online, and now I'm very much kind of in the realm of that theory. Dean's not real.
What?
There is no Dean.
But Richie met Dean at the restaurant.
Right.
Oh, boy. Wow.
So yeah, it's this theory, but then I
wondered that when Bill was talking to him out in the street.
Right. So yeah, here's the little boy, Dean. He approaches Richie in the restaurant with hey, Richie, the fun's just beginning, right? very ominous, has that like creepy smile that he sits there with for a little bit.
Oh my God.
Then, of course, the twist in the movie is he's a fan of Richie as an actor and is quoting him on his show.
Yeah, but then he doesn't want a picture because Richie treats him like crap because he's afraid he's freaking Pennywise.
Because Richie thinks he's not real.
Yeah.
And so that whole like, oh, did you want a picture? He's like, no, I'm good. I think I'm good. But I think I subscribe to this theory that no, Dean is it. Is a part of it. Yes, his parents were there with him in the restaurant, but they didn't interact with anybody else, did they? So they may also be too. Because we see this same kid popping up different times with different losers, really mainly just Bill at this point after this. But and then the night like little part of me is like, I prefer this theory also because then it means that an actual innocent little boy named Dean didn't get brutally, gruesomely, horrifically murdered in a mirror maze. But
I don't want to go in a mirror maze, and you want to know why? There's 2 reasons. It and us. No reason.
Right. Nothing
good happens in a mirror maze.
But yes, but Dean, here's another reason I think he's not real. I mean, first of all, just the coincidence that he's living in Bill's old childhood home is a little heavy-handed.
Yeah.
And then, of course, rides up on his skateboard and he lets Bill know that Pennywise is targeting him or that he's been hearing the voices and that, like, he knows about Pennywise the clown. And then he makes this very kind of pointed, he's like, but I'm supposed to be at the festival. I'm going to the festival. And there's like this whole underlying, because it's right after Bill has had this moment with Pennywise about this guilt with Georgie.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's coming, you know, you didn't save him. You were supposed to be the one. It's all your fault. And now he's here talking to Dean, and Dean going, I'm going to the festival. I'll be at the festival. Like, really making sure that Bill is aware of that. Bill knows
where he's going to be.
And then the skateboard appears at the hotel. You know, you couldn't save Georgie, but you can save him. And I think it's all these pieces of it just trying to build onto that guilt.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, how do I really, really mess with this guy about his guilt of letting his little brother die? Well, how about I make him feel like he's also the reason this other little boy died too?
Yeah.
But I don't think Dean actually was ever real.
Oh my God. That's interesting. I've never read that theory before, but I can see where it could have some life. Yeah. I wondered when, like I said, when Bill was in the street talking to Dean, part of me was like, that's Pennywise. Like, it's got to be, like, it has to be Pennywise. But then totally left my mind after that.
Yeah, it's just, everything just, like, seems so perfect to add up to the, like, insecurity and guilt that Bill is being tortured with, that I think it's just another layer.
Yeah.
Yeah, after all the things going on, especially with the mirror maze incident, which we don't have to talk about in too much detail. We get it.
Yeah. We get it.
Yeah. We get a lot of it. Bill is just feeling spurred on to go after it alone. He goes to Nebolt by himself. But again, I think that's why, if Dean is not real, how do you pull Bill so far into his own head and fill him with so much guilt that he goes alone without the rest of the losers? That's a good way to do it to him, right?
Yeah, I would say so. And everyone else wanted to leave anyway, but then they wanted to help him. Did you happen to notice how much luggage that Eddie had? I think he was planning to stay for a month, and he probably had every vitamin known to man in those suitcases.
Right. No, that's why that was a weekend pack for him, just because all the meds he's got in there. All the gazebos.
Yeah.
Bags and bags of gazebos.
Yep.
But, yeah, the rest of the group, the rest of the losers do show up. They're not going to let Bill go it alone.
Of course not.
Let's kill this fucking clown.
Let's kill this fucking clown. I loved when Bill just looked at Richie and asked him about what he said. You said something, that really got us, you said the right thing at the right time. And Richie's just going through a whole list of things.
He's trying to remember. He's like, I don't want to die. No, that's not it. It's a good thing we're not measuring dicks. No, that's also not it. let's kill this fucking clown.
There we
it
go.
is. There it is.
Yes. I have to say, and we haven't started talking about the character of Richie in this movie, but Bill Hader was fucking awesome.
So good. Yes.
So good in this movie. Big props.
Yeah, well, they go in the house and it's like oozing lava, like magma down the stairs. I love what he's done with the place. So then Bev uses beep beep Richie. Correctly, she uses it. Nice that they included it. I still wish it would have been established in these movies.
So we would understand, yes. We only have what we learned in the first miniseries.
Right. But, yep. And then pretty quickly, down to the sewers they go. They get to the spot.
They're skipping.
I'm skipping a lot of stuff.
No. They're skipping. Down to the sewers.
Too,
la la la.
Just very all holding hands, singing songs.
Yeah. Rainbows and unicorns are there. Like, it's just a fun time.
Yeah, it was a fun time. Magical Wonderland. But they get to the spot where they fought it last time, but they need to go deeper. We gotta go deeper. They gotta go into like its lair to finish it together.
Mm-hmm.
Eddie doesn't want to. Richie helps him out, gives him that like pep talk I liked a lot. You know, who killed an evil clown when they weren't even 14? Me.
Yes.
Yeah.
But don't forget, before that, we got Spider Stan.
Spider Stan.
Yeah.
So it's called Stanley Spiderhead.
Man.
So creepy.
I think it was better than, the Stan head that we got in the miniseries. That was one thing. This was a whole other level of fucking insane.
Yeah, I loved it. It was so good.
Great. So yes.
Super creepy. Then I was like, Eddie, you can stab Henry Bowers. You can kill a just normal man. But you can't stab Stanley Spiderhead, who's trying to eat Richie's face off? Come on, man. I'm with Bill.
I really loved that pep talk, too. I thought it was great. It still, again, really showed the relationship that the two of them have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so down they go. And then even Bev kind of helps him out a little bit, hands him that fence spike from outside.
Mm-hmm.
Take this. It kills monsters. It does, if you believe it does. And there's the belief, as an aspect pointed out, that again, this version of the story, these two movies haven't really focused on as much. They're more subtle, but but it's
believe
there.
It. You have to believe it, and it's real if you do.
Yeah. So here's where I can get into a quick recap, but I try to make it fun at least. But just talk about this battle. Face-off. What do we get? Because I did it last time, so I like kind of breaking it down a little bit and having fun with it. But yeah, it starts with the ritual of Chud. Place the artifacts in the vessel, chant together, brings the deadlights down, and then the deadlights turn into a balloon. And Pennywise is there. The ritual was a gazebo.
Yes, because evidently Mike didn't give all of the information to everyone else.
Yeah, that when he was given the information that, we figured out this ritual, I guess you would think if it worked, it wouldn't be here. And then he finds out, they did the ritual and it didn't work and they all died.
Right.
Great thinking, Mike. But then his thinking is like, but we actually believe we can do it? I don't know.
Well, and we've done it once. This... Like once we were able to take it out. So we should be able to do it again.
He believes in their belief.
Yes.
A little stronger.
Yeah.
Which, still, again, Mike, I love Mike. He's great. But he's got to stop, bringing people into situations without all of the information, because he's real bad about doing that in this movie.
So bad about it. Yeah.
Man.
Spider Pennywise has been waiting 27 years and dreaming of this moment, getting to be after them again.
Yeah, which it was a much better giant spider battle.
Oh my god, yes. The effects were so much better. Pennywise doesn't go down without a fight, though. It really traps them in their own nightmares, basically.
Oh, yeah. It's, have Bill falls into this deep water, only way back up takes him into his childhood basement.
Yep.
where he gets filled with more guilt trips.
You lied, and I died. Oh, man. Rough.
Another win for Jackson. Because how many times does this poor guy have to kill an iteration of his little brother? My God.
It's rough.
Just so many times. But then he faces it as himself. He's talking to his own self, the younger version of himself. And with that, he's able to let go of the guilt.
Yep.
Finally.
Which was a big key to being strong enough to take on Pennywise at the end.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because that guilt was really weighing on him, and it just kept him from being who he needed to be at the end.
Yeah. Richie and Eddie get the 3 doors.
Oh my gosh.
That we saw in the first chapter.
The cutest little Pomeranian.
Yeah. The first time, not scary at all, had the top half of Betty Ripson asking, "Where's my shoe?" So this time, very scary, has the bottom half of her body asking the same question.
Looking for her shoe.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, maybe he's not fucking with us. So not scary at all. Yeah, had the Pomeranian that Richie was hoping for. Because that we have to bring it into its true form. I hope it's a Pomeranian. He goes, I hope it's a puppy.
Pomeranian.
A Pomeranian.
They're so cute. That dog was adorable.
Until it wasn't. Turned out to still be scary. But yeah, should have just gone with regular scary.
Ben is cast into the clubhouse that he built for the group.
Yeah, Ben and Bev both transported kind of their own little...
private hell.
Prisons, graves. Yeah, Bev's in a bathroom stall at the school. We get a "Here's Johnny" by a young Nicholas Hamilton and his young Henry Bowers there. It was fun. But yeah, the stall is filling with blood, and then Ben's being buried alive by dirt in the clubhouse. But they are able to save each other through the power of love.
Yes.
Richie comes out, gets zapped by the deadlights. Great moment from Bill Hader. I do love that. Just that. Eddie saves him. But then with that, Eddie unfortunately then gets impaled and killed.
Yes, but he gave us that wonderful line when he was throwing that spear. Beep, beep, motherfucker.
Mm-hmm. It was awesome.
I thought it was funny. A bunch of times they were quoting Bruce Willis's character from Die Hard, Yippee-ki-yay. Yeah. I noticed that in the last movie too, and in this one. Yeah.
It's funny. Yeah, before Eddie dies, he is able to tell the others that back when he was encountering the leper in the basement of the pharmacy, that he actually almost killed it. He felt he was getting a handle on it, and it was his idea of that is you have to make it feel small and weak and scared. You have to shift the dynamic, is what they've kind of realized, is you've got to make it scared of you instead of the other way around. And then my favorite way of boiling this down, because it sounds so anticlimactic and dumb, but literally what it boils down to is they defeat Pennywise by bullying it.
Yes! They do! They call it you're just a fucking clown! Right. You're a weak old woman! And it keeps saying, I'm the eater of worlds, blah, 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 blah. It doesn't matter.
I know. I was waiting for, it wouldn't have been more timely. It would have been a Richie line. I'm the eater of worlds. You the eater of these nuts. Right? No, come on. Do something. No,
yeah.
But yeah, they realize it was able to hurt them and be formidable because they went in facing it with that mindset. It was a monster that they had to fight, and that's why they couldn't beat it. But once they were able to shift that dynamic, turn the tables, and realize, oh no, we're the monsters and it has to survive us, that's when they can win.
Yes, and it becomes a little teeny baby Pennywise.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
I'm interested to see how close that is. Book-wise, I feel like it's not.
I don't know.
Again, I don't think it is.
I don't think it is.
Don't tell me how to begin.
When you read the book, you'll get to know the ending. I'm not going to spoil it for you.
In 73 years.
No, if you start reading a page, a page a day will take you 3 years. But if you start reading 10 pages a day,
math.
Too much math.
Then that equals different number. That's all I need to know.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so that's really all I have for Bill. I mean, we pick up afterwards. He's back to writing. He's feeling normal life. He's happy again. Good for Bill.
I know. I was happy for him. He wasn't as henpecked because we didn't have that horrible manager of Audra's who, like we did in the miniseries.
Right. We literally got none of her other than just like the one scene on the movie set real quick.
Yeah, that was it.
Where he kind of left her in not the best moment where he's just like,
gotta go.
Why are you questioning me? I gotta go.
Bye.
Bye.
And he leaves. Yeah.
But yeah, so that Bill, I think Ms. Beverly Marsh would be our
we
next.
have to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you said the movie starts differently. Because that's really where we start is pick up on the Losers Club where we last saw them in chapter 1 together.
Yes. Making
their blood pact. We get added in a little bit right where it starts, Bev in the deadlights. And then a little bit more of their conversation. She's talking about what she saw in the deadlights. Because she mentioned in chapter 1, that she saw them as adults back together. What she did not mention to them at this point is she also saw all of their horrible deaths.
Yes. And she
did not mention that part.
When Stanley asked about himself, she didn't elaborate really too much.
Well, because Richie asked, am I still handsome? Classic Richie joke where she says, you grow into your looks. What the fuck does that mean? Finn Wolfhard.
So great.
But then, and Stan asks, well, what about me? And she looks really sad for a second because she knows, she saw what happened. But then her answer says she lies to him and says, you're the same, but taller. He wasn't there. We know what happened.
We know what happened to him. Poor Stan.
Mm-hmm. And then similarly here, Bev has ended up marrying this rich, abusive asshole. And the call from Mike and her promise that she made to the losers is what it took to get her to leave. Leaves the ring behind. Good riddance.
Yeah. Did you notice, even for just a second, he seemed super supportive?
Yeah. It was kind of I think they wanted that bait and switch.
Yeah.
For a little bit. Oh, maybe it is different. No, not different at all.
Not at all. He was just awful.
Mm-hmm.
Almost worse than the first guy. Almost worse than him because of, he punched her in the face and, I think he was going to rape her. That's what it looked like at first till she kicked him off. She was tough.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very tough.
Yeah.
But some of her spark was gone. I felt like the teenage Beverly had more of a spark. I feel like her life has beaten her down. She just seems so beaten down.
Yeah, there's been a lot taken out of her. And so strangely enough, it is the really a good thing that happens to her as far as really giving her spark back, like you mentioned, giving her some, a better life and being the person she should be. So then she does reveal to them, she's like, nope, I've seen how we all die. And it kind of comes to this, it's because of the deadlights, even though she was the only one that was directly in them, they all have been affected and kind of infected by it, to where she's like, no, we're all going to die pretty terrible deaths while we're still relatively young within the next 20 years. It's, unless we can stop it now on this cycle that it's in, while it is here, while it's awake.
Well, nobody wants to come back when they're 70 to fight it.
Mm-hmm.
When you've got, who knows what shape you're going to be in at that point.
Well, she knows that the shape they'll all be in at that point is dead. Okay. They won't make it to 70.
No.
So her article, her artifact that she's got to go for. She goes back to her childhood home. It's very same situation as the miniseries. They did the Mrs. Kirsch.
I have to tell you, that was the first most terrifying thing about this movie. It was ridiculous. But it kind of got spoiled a little bit because it was in the previews. The previews were everywhere. So it kind of got spoiled. Mrs. Kirsch was definitely... She was naked at one point and just skulking about in the background. And, yeah.
It's so fun. Yeah, of course, you get I'm sorry your father passed. I'm like, well, clearly she knows her dad died. She's the one that killed him. At least I assumed. Unless somehow he survived that blow to the head and then she was moved to other family for her own protection. But I'm pretty sure he died then.
I'm pretty sure she killed him.
But yeah, the Miss Kirsch sequence is very similar to the miniseries. But we do get more flashbacks, of course, with Bev and her terrible father. That just heartbreaking and terrible scene where we see, Bev's mother must have been battling depression and ended up taking her own life. And her father is blaming her. But I'm like, well, she was married to you. So
that's probably,
I don't know, maybe look at yourself in the mirror, sir.
But they look alike. And he sprays her with her mother's perfume and it's twisted. It's just gross. It's real twisted.
But we still have the kind old lady and then the house being these horrific illusions by it. Was done even much scarier this time.
Well, I think what tipped Bev off was Mrs. Kirsch saying, "No one that dies here ever really dies."
And then she just stares at her for a long few seconds. But also with this scene, we get a human form Pennywise. We just get Bill Skarsgård putting on his makeup and his scars. Yikes. Bravo to Skarsgård there, though. That was that was awesome.
There was a picture on the wall of Mrs. Kirsch and her, quote, father.
Yeah, she's like, oh, my dad moved here. We moved here, and then he would join the circus. And then that's when she starts seeing the pictures of Skarsgård. And he's like, oh, no.
Here we go, Pennywise.
That was great.
He has such influence on them. And people in the town, because no one notices anything in this town.
Right. And I think one of the saddest things to me throughout this is that Bev has forgotten. Like, she's got like these little pieces, but she never really remembers until the very end of the movie that it was Ben that wrote the poem. Like, because she found that out in chapter 1 as kids.
Yeah.
But a lot of that is just kind of muddled and blurry, and she's been living her life again as an adult now, thinking it was Bill.
Yeah.
As she's having these memories come back, she's like, oh, it was Bill. It's like, no, you learned already. Come on, snap into it.
I wrote that down. It's like, no, Beverly, you knew that it wasn't Bill. We did this when they came over to clean up the bathroom. Bill isn't into poetry.
But yeah, so then, again, 27 years later, and Ben is still spending so much of this movie just sadly looking at Bev and Bill together, being like, God damn it. What do I have to do?
There was a clip where they showed the young Ben walking away from Bill and Bev in tears, and I just felt so bad.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's going to be okay. It's going to get better. It has to. But he was so sad, and I felt for him. It's like, yeah.
Which, yeah, and with that, if you have any more Bev notes, that's the end of mine for her, so I could get into Ben. But
she was a chain smoker in this one. That I will say. Yeah,
I don't think we saw her. Did we see her smoking in chapter 1, like, at all? I don't think so. Sophia Lillis, I don't think so.
No, she was smoking as a teenager in this one, and she was also smoking as adult Bev. Like, bring on the cigarettes everywhere. Every time anything happened, she had the cigarettes.
Beverly Marsh, brought to you by Marlboro.
Yes. Well, let's move on to Ben, because Ben has this memory, or he thinks back. He has an encounter with Pennywise where Beverly bullies him.
Yeah, they did it in the miniseries as a quick, like, adult Ben being tormented by Pennywise by thinking Bev came to his room and was, like, flirting with him and things were getting romantic, and then it turned out to be Pennywise. But here we see it did that to him as a kid, where he's in summer school and, Bev is sitting there kind of flirting with him and talking, and then when he goes in for a kiss, it gets dark. She's like, "Who? I would never love a disgusting, gross, fat kid like you." And then it's Pennywise, and he's got to deal with Beverly with literal winter fire, January embers hair.
I called it Ben's terrible summer experience with a burning Beverly. Yeah. But he knew. He kept saying, Bev would never do that to me. She would never say that to me. She would never be that way.
Yeah. But seeing some of these, like, flashback scenes when they're going to pick up their artifacts, it did help me also. It's a good reason, again, to show why the kids teamed up so easily to go fight it and save Bev. Because it didn't leave them alone even when they spread out over the summer. We're seeing, like, it kept tormenting them over the summer. So they were ready to stop it. But Ben, I did notice when he is, when Mike is calling everybody at the beginning, they did a little bait and switch. They made us think that Ben was somebody else, and then we see him pop up on the video call. That scene opens, and there's this guy who's a little bit bigger, who's giving the presentation. It was not Ben, but in an alternate universe, it was. Because the actor playing the guy giving the presentation was Brandon Crane, who played the young Ben Hanscom in the miniseries.
Oh my god, really?
Yeah, I recognized him immediately.
Oh my gosh.
Like, that's young Ben.
That's cool.
So really, when they showed the scene, it's like, well, what does Ben look like now? Where's him as adult? And the first person we see is the adult version of the actor who played young Ben in the miniseries. So it was kind of technically that was the adult Ben, but then we see the Ben Hanscom in this movie call in on the video call. So it was a really fun cameo to actually have
my gosh,
young Ben grown up in this.
When I was putting this together for this episode, I read that Seth Green actually wanted to come back and play the adult Richie Tozier.
That would have been so great. I did want that too. But Bill Hader also was amazing. So yeah. But yeah, so I liked the cameo, Brandon Crane. It's really fun. Because I was like, that's not Ben, but kind of it is.
Gonna have to rewatch that. Again, I've only watched this twice. I didn't love it. I thought the first half was super solid, and then it just, I don't know. There were things I didn't like.
Yeah. Ben was stretching out those architect muscles even as a kid. He built this whole underground clubhouse, or at least renovated it. But
we all wanted one of those, right?
Right.
Secret hideout that no one could find.
Yeah. Right. And that flashback scene gave us a lot of just good hilarity with the kid actors again, just really just riffing and being, teasing each other and joking around. Just a lot of really great stuff.
Stanley shower cap. I mean, it is practical if you think about it.
Right. I like the moment it's like shower is like, yeah, so you don't get spiders in your hair while we're down here. And Richie being, that's stupid. Who's afraid of spiders? And then Stan steps out of the way and everyone's wearing them already. Which is really funny, perfect. But also that line of who's afraid of spiders is a great foreshadowing of Stanley coming up and he's in their final battle with it. So
oh my god, Stan. Spider Stan. Spider Stan. That's what went through my head as soon as I saw him as a spider. I'm like, oh my goodness.
Also makes you think of The Thing.
Yep.
And then, only other note that I have on Ben is just a small one. When they are at the hotel and Ben comes out from one of the rooms upstairs and yells out, Bill, Bev, and I went, DeVoe. But that was...
That's switched around, but good. I appreciate that you know who they are. Their shelf life was not long.
Right.
So the fact that you were able to pull that, that's awesome. I'm very proud. So you don't want to mention that Ben and Beverly get married?
Sure, we can. It's kind of on a little tacked on thing at other notes somewhere.
All right.
But
I mean, that
it did happen, which is good. It's great.
She finally realizes, and they go off to have a life together. And I was just so happy because there's no way she's going back to that asshole.
Oh, no, definitely not. But yeah, so she's got Ben and a boat and a dog.
Yep.
So she's happy.
She needs to call that divorce attorney and get that taken care of. All right, so who's next on the list?
All right, we've mentioned him a few times. Let's talk Richie Tozier.
Bill Hader was so good.
Such a great job.
Such a high point in this movie for me.
Yeah, a stand-up comedian who's very shaken by Mike's call. It completely derails
Makes him throw
in
up.
The whole show.
That's how we meet him, basically. It moves from, because of the way they did it in the beginning, it moves so quickly from one to the next that we're just getting, Eddie finding out, and the next thing you know, you see Richie Tozier throwing up over a balcony. It's like, oh, okay. Shit got real.
Yeah, he's still very much just all the inappropriate jokes, Richie Trash Mouth, right? When they're in the clubhouse, I was like, I get injecting levity into the situation, Richie, but maybe doing impersonations of Pennywise is not the best avenue for that.
Not at all. That is a bad idea in the history of bad ideas. Right. That's a very bad idea. Pulling a little Jurassic into this one.
Yeah, but he had probably the funniest line to me in this movie, the one that cracked me up the most, is while they're as adults in the clubhouse there, where Richie goes, "Okay, Mike, what are we doing here?" Mike says, "The ritual. It requires a sacrifice." He goes, "A sacrifice? I nominate Eddie." And he goes, "Wait, what?" And he goes, "Because you're little. You'll fit on a barbecue."
Oh my.
I don't know why, but that just killed me. That's the line that cracked me up the most. It's just...
Again, it shows the relationship between the two of them.
Yeah.
They interact so well. And Eddie fights back for, he pushes back with Richie sometimes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I just love it, because the whole time it's the whole Richie is just making all the jokes. He's like, "You didn't get married? Oh, you didn't hear? I did get married. What? Yeah, me and your mother have been happily living together for years." And he just keeps those jokes going about his mom the whole time. The Jabba the Hutt.
Oh my God, that killed me.
All these just great. And so I love that Eddie, before he dies, his one thing is like, Richie, I need to tell you one more thing. He's like, "I fucked your mom." And it's like, yeah, of course. Eddie knows. Eddie is like, only the one time somebody saying those words will make you tear up, right?
Yes. We got to see, too, in Richie's flashback at the Capitol Theater, when he touches this other boy. He's playing a Street Fighter with another boy who happens to be the cousin of Henry fucking Bowers.
Right,
really?
Yeah, this kid Connor, which we see. Yeah, it's a friendly interaction they're playing, but then it's this, they kind of do the little hand slap as friends, and the hand touch lingers a little bit, and you see, oh, that did something for him.
Yeah, Richie felt something. That was
Sure, that arcade had some good selection. Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, Rampage, which
I saw that
movie adaptation.
I know, I'm loving it.
Yeah, but that's bringing that up. That's a big thing with Richie here. Talk about again Pennywise. This movie really attacking insecurities and guilt and shame and fear. Because that's the torture that Richie is having to come and grips with and understand his own sexuality. So we're seeing here that's something, and he's still battling that even as an adult. We see here, and so it is torturing him with that secret.
I know your secret. I know your secret. Your dirty little secret. Oh my God.
He's holding on to. We see how he's always kind of picking on Eddie, making these sexual jokes, and that, and you kind of, it sends you back to really looking at it all through that lens, is all of his interactions with Eddie, and you're like, well, that's why, because he's in love with Eddie. He has these feelings for him even as a kid,
Yep. And I mean, he didn't address it as a kid.
Right. He did, even as a kid, we do see Finn Wolfhard's version. You know, he get the R plus scratched onto and we don't see what he writes until he goes back to it as an adult, and you realize it was an E that he put there, that he had to put that out in the universe somehow, that like, even if he can't say it to Eddie, he can't say it to any of the losers, he can't say it to anybody, but as long as he can just put it into the universe, Richie loves Eddie, just put it out there, you know, that it gives him some kind of relief, you know,
other than it being this secret that he holds on to.
Yeah. Which, again, metaphors, I think it's exactly why it comes to him as a kid after that scene at the arcade with Henry Bowers and his cousin. That is why it appears to him as Paul Bunyan, used as his Paul Bunyan statue. That is the epitome of masculinity in his eyes. It's counterbalancing how he feels at that time.
Yep, I would believe that.
He's just been yelled and called a fairy and a other F word that's a lot more.
Man.
And, you know, all of these words. And so, you know, he's already feeling low, and he just had this moment and these feelings for this boy in the arcade. And so he's dealing with all this going on in his head. So what's going to attack him is big old manly beefy Paul Bunyan, you know, just to rub it in, you know?
That statue, they did a very good job with that statue because it looks so close. I've seen that statue in real life because I've driven to Bangor, been in Bangor many times. That statue just greets you and reminds you where you are.
It doesn't come swinging like an axe at you with bats flying out of its mouth and all that stuff. Good,
not any time I ever visited it.
You must have gone at the wrong season.
I guess, yeah. Maybe that happens, you know, on Halloween, but I've never seen that happen before.
Right. But, so yeah, that's, at the end, after everything, because we talked a lot about already kind of in the group things, is, you know, Eddie and Richie. But then at the end of the movie, they go off this one last dive and swim together, kind of clean off, and, you know, it's over, and they're all mourning, but fondly remembering Eddie. But you can just see, I mean, they're all talking about it, and they look over at Richie, and he's just sobbing into his hands. I mean, Richie loved Eddie deeply. And in that scene, that's where I was like, and God damn it, Bill Hader, you just brought me to tears. Like, yes. I was like, like I'm crying with Bill Hader. And then he just turns around and immediately makes me laugh again. They're all consoling him and hugging him. And he's like, well, if I wouldn't have lost my glasses, I'd know who any of you people are, but thanks. Like, just.
I know. I felt for him because I think Eddie was the love of his life.
Oh, absolutely. And
he never said a word. And you put yourself in that situation and think, would you want to know something? You know, would you want to know that someone cared for you that much? Like, before the end of their life or before, right. You know, would you want to know? I would think you would, right?
Right. But I get it. I mean, I've been in that situation in life where, like, you have feelings for somebody, but you don't want to tell them because your friendship is so meaningful to you that you're like, I don't want to make things awkward. I don't want to ruin things. I've been in that situation, so I know. You know, yeah. So it's like...
yeah, you don't want to ruin... Yeah, and I can see that too. Like, friendship is really important. And it is a big risk to put it out there. Because you don't...
You know, because we are so good friends right now, and everything is great... that what if they don't feel the same way about me? Then I've just thrown everything out to where now they're only, it's going to be awkward. They're only going to see me as, oh no, they're in love with me. And I don't feel that way. So now it's going to change the dynamic of the relationship, whether you want it to or not, you know, and it doesn't have to, but it feels like it always will. And
you know what? I don't think it would. For me, I don't think it would. I think that I'd like to think that I would handle something like that well.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's just, yeah. Wow, we got really, really deep.
Right. But saying that is because I have been in that situation before in my life. It's like, so I get it. I mean, as a young Richie, I could see, I mean, and that's even like an extra level to him because it's not just telling a girl that he's friends with. It's not like if he's telling Bev. But then... I mean, they're growing up in the late 80s. There's the whole stigma and stipulation of him telling another boy that he's in love with him.
Yeah.
And then if that isn't reciprocated well, things can get even worse. So I get it. I see it.
Absolutely. Because it's not just one thing, it's a second prong, basically.
Yeah.
You're revealing something about yourself. And you're revealing something very deep and personal at the same time. And that's a lot. The reaction, if it is or isn't what you want it to be. I feel like I've been in the situation where I have said something and it didn't go the way I expected, but it didn't ruin the friendship at all.
That's good.
Which is great. But I think it depends on the friendship, maybe.
It's a whole lot of fear for Richie in a whole different way.
Yeah.
It's a whole different kind of fear, but it's fear.
And Pennywise feeds on that.
Yep.
Yeah, Pennywise definitely feeds on that.
So, yeah. That got deep, but great. But that's also all I have on Richie. So.
Yeah, I think that's everything I have as well.
Which then I have just tiny little notes on certain characters. But again, Eddie would be next.
Oh my God,
of course, Eddie works as a risk analyst for an insurance firm. I
liked him.
Sense.
You know what, though? I liked him better as a limo driver.
Oh, yeah.
I did. Him and his buddy, I liked that.
Yeah. And I think I noticed, again, because I haven't read the books, I don't know, but I understand. I mean, there's kind of this subtext, and I don't know if it's in the books or maybe it was just in this movie or whatever. But I mean, again, going back to the, LGBT, gay situation with Richie, and because I feel like, again, in the miniseries, they were kind of leading us that way with Eddie, with his relationship with his his employee or his driver there, and that, I think they were kind of giving little hints toward Eddie, and then of course in this movie it's more Richie. While Eddie is married to a woman and living his own life there. So it's kind of
a woman just like his mother.
Exactly like his mother.
And
maybe even worse.
You know what? The same actress played both.
Really? That's cool. Isn't really
that cool?
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
That's fun. That makes perfect sense.
It doesn't it?
Yeah, so it's kind of, so I don't know if in the books, if any of that's there or whatever, but it's like, can we just get a universe where they both love each other? Come on.
I know, right? Why not? Just once, come on. Give us a multiverse, okay?
Yeah.
Let's just have a multiverse.
But yeah, I said, he's married to a lady who's as bad, if not worse, a backseat hypochondriac and worrywart than his mother was.
Oh my God.
But he doesn't live with his mother. But then I guess since you said he kind of in a way does, casting-wise, again. It's the Ben situation.
So bad.
And then Eddie, as the adult, to get his artifact, he returns to Keene's pharmacy. Andy Muschietti is still back there shopping in the same aisle. Like, come on, pick something, Andy. Pick something. It's been 27 years.
It's about time you pick something by now. Right. If you can't, maybe you need some assistance.
Right. It's been 27 years, Andy, and you've aged only 2. How is this happening? No.
It's so nice to see that Eddie's bully's grown up to be such a wonderfully positive member of society.
She's still working at the pharmacy for her dad, just popping the gum.
Yep. But then this gave me the second most terrifying part of the movie, which, I mean, maybe everyone thinks it's the ending and the battle and stuff that's the creepiest, but I'm sorry. Eddie in the basement with his mother, trying to save his mother from some sort of blanket-covered, strange, zombie-like leper creature.
That.
Creepy.
And he's got he remembers, it getting to him with the leper in the basement with his mom. And then when he realizes, that was then, but the curtain's still there, and he opens it and it's fine, and then the leper's back. He has to fight it again. Just call me Angel. No.
Oh my God, I know. Honestly, I thought it was going to be, because I've only seen this movie once and I forgot most of it.
I remembered that part coming up because I remember seeing this in theaters when it came out, and just the whole theater being so tense and like on their edge of their seats, and just like,
and then they hear that song,
and then that music started playing, and I remember just the theater busting out laughing, and it was incredible.
I love it though, because honestly, I thought it was going to be like some other musical attack scene, like "Don't Stop Me Now" or the dozens of them in Preacher. There's so many good ones. So I was thinking, oh my God, we're going to get a music montage. But it lasted all of like 4 seconds. So.
But it's fun. It's great. And then Eddie, he gets stabbed through the cheek by Henry Bowers, and somehow it just keeps his cool enough to like slowly hide back and like stab Bowers back. I was like, big props to Eddie for actually being a badass in that scene.
Oh
like,
my God. Yes, he just crawls into the bathtub, takes it out of his cheek, and then stabs Henry Bowers.
Yeah, and as he's like sliding out the door around Bowers, you should cut that mullet, man. It's been 30 years.
Yep. It's been 30 years, man. Oh, man. One thing we didn't talk about, and kind of shifts back to Richie a little bit, was Stan's speech.
Mm-hmm.
And what they showed of it, and then Richie, being adult Richie, sitting there kind of reliving or thinking of it, and then saying, "Thanks for showing up, Stanley."
Mm-hmm.
It just reminds me of that deleted stuff that you had talked about from last week.
Which is interesting because this is not the speech he gave in the deleted scenes of the first part.
No.
It was a completely different speech. Because that one was, about... what did I say?
Growing up. Well, this one was about being an adult, and he's supposed to be a man today.
And, and not, and change. He's like, but I've always been a loser, and I still am. Because his speech there was about standing up for others and being there for others and indifference. Whether you care or do you just, like, let things go. And that's not the speech they give here. It's similar because this one is more all about accepting who you are and the people that build the life around you, the people you're with, people. And so that's also what causes him to go out and help the rest of the group. So it still shows why Stanley was there with them at the end of the first part. But it is interesting that they changed the speech, which again, maybe is why they left it out of the first one, is because they had already decided, we want to do a different speech in part 2. But it's still the same way with him kind of leaving with a mic drop moment and Richie being the only one to stand up and clap. I feel like they took that was the same that was filmed. And they just had Wyatt Oleff come in and give a different speech, but then showed the same footage of Richie and stuff at the end. Because refilming things with Finn Wolfhard, filming new scenes for this movie with Finn Wolfhard would have been
impossible.
Well, they did, and there's a lot of CGI. The same with Jack Dylan Grazer. I know definitely those two, Eddie and Richie. So Jack and Finn both grew a lot between the filming of the two movies.
Yeah.
And so the new scenes that are shot with young Richie and young Eddie, their faces are very heavily CGI'd to make them look younger, and it's noticeable sometimes.
I thought about that.
Yeah.
I thought I noticed that a couple of times.
They had to de-age the actors between movies because both of them had grown quite a bit.
Yeah, that happens.
Yeah.
You get a growth spurt, you start to age. And
I think they had to digitally alter some of Jeremy Ray Taylor's voice, who played the young Ben, a little bit. I think his voice had deepened just a little bit between the two as well when they filmed new stuff. So they had to... There's your deal when dealing with kid actors of that age, is sometimes coming back and doing another season of a show or another movie with the same actors a few years later where it's supposed to be the same summer. You run into issues like that with kids.
Yeah, you definitely do. Especially, that age. They're going to grow and change really fast.
Yep.
Girls age grow and age. It just, guys, the way that it happens is just, it could be 6 months.
Fast and chaotic.
Yeah. Fast and chaotic. That is really
good. Yeah. All right. Let's see, because Mike would be next. But I've talked about most of my notes with him and other stuff other than, we know he stayed behind the whole 27 years and he's been keeping track of police activity to see if patterns appear that could mean the return of it. So a dismembered body by a bridge sounds familiar to him for sure.
Absolutely, because he's been through it before.
All right.
Yeah. I felt real bad for Mike Pennywise did not let up when it came to reminding him of his parents dying in a fire.
Right. But even, like, we see that, like, the town, I mean, he's been sitting here reading this history of Derry, and it's 2 crackheads burn themselves up in a fire, and that's all he's been getting. Your druggy parents do this. But then after it is defeated at the end, he's looking at the same book, and it's like, 2 killed in accident fire, loving parents. Like, he's just like, even the town, the things he's reading, everything he sees that's in his face all day has been attacked.
Yes, it's been Pennywise. All the things. I'm interested to know if the fog that's over Derry lifts and people start to be real people again and not just, clouded or, ignoring everything that happens.
Yeah. And then, let's see, that's all for Mike. Stanley, I had a couple little, just small note as casting was spot on for a lot of them even. The older Ben looked just like if Jeremy Ray Taylor had grown up and slimmed up in the face and all that. Like, you're like, yeah, no, that could be Ben. But even, adult Stanley, I mean, I can buy Andy Bean as an older Wyatt Olaf for sure. Like,
yeah. I thought even the actor that played adult Henry Bowers, looked so similar.
I think the mullet had a lot to do with it. The haircut was a big part of it.
Yeah,
but
I'm very similar.
Yeah,
the casting was great. It really was.
Yeah, for sure. And then the speech talked about, we see, at the end of the movie, the scars on their hands are gone, but they're not forgetting anything, and Mike's finally leaving Derry.
Thank God.
But it's all pieced together by the note that Stan left for all of them, which, I mean, he decided he couldn't face it, but he also knew that they all had to be there, alive. So as he says, I took myself off the board. That was the sacrifice he could make to help. And then the rest of that note just about, again, as they're talking about, we have to fight and we have to stand. And it's like just talking about being who you are and being proud of who you are and being together and not letting the guilt and the shame and fear of anything. It goes past just Pennywise and it, but just in general in life is just not letting fear and not letting shame and not letting these things take over your life. Again, I'm sitting here like tearing up, hearing the voice of Stanley and others like reading this note. And I'm like, okay, Andy Muschietti. Okay.
He does that to us. I feel like it's something he does. Like I can remember being emotional at the end of Mama.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Andy Muschietti's good at scaring the shit out of you and then making you feel things. He's kind of, him and Flanagan have a superpower, man.
Yep, they do. What are we going to do about that? There's no, special medicine or charm that takes away that power.
Yeah. Let's see, notes. Again, I'm just running through character notes that I've got. Henry Bowers.
Oh, my God.
Washed out of the sewers as a kid after the events of Chapter 1, and then he's arrested, placed in Juniper Hills. I don't think we ever see the name of that, but his jumpsuit has the JH on it.
Oh my God.
Mental institution. And he's sat there until now, just waiting on it to call upon him again for his help. And
but when he sees the red balloon, oh my God, he starts going crazy. And then all the people were banging, all the patients there were banging on the windows. He's causing hysteria there. And then he goes back to his room.
He's so ready to get back to work for Pennywise.
Oh, yeah.
Dead Hochstetter shows up to return his knife to him.
Oh, my God. He looked real good, huh? He's aged, decomposed real well.
Yeah. He's what's his skincare regimen in the afterlife?
I don't know, but we all should adopt it.
Yeah, and again, kind of like in the miniseries, the return of Bowers is a little underwhelming, but I think it's supposed to be, where you're like, oh no, such a threat.
But it's not really.
Because we get the scene with Eddie, which we talked about, which is great, but then he shows up at the library to attack Mike, and this time he doesn't even get to stab on Mike. He's like, got Mike pinned down, and then Richie shows up to axe him in the head. So it was like...
Took him out.
Well, that was long overdue.
Oh my God,
Get it?
that was 20...
Because of all the library books? I was just like...
27 years Richie. In the making.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so not a lot of Bowers, but that's kind of how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, we're supposed to kind of gloss over him. He's not really. I mean, he's a henchman. Oh no, what did you call him last week?
Goon.
Goon. He's a goon.
He has goons. He has goons.
He has goons. Okay. But
he's a henchman. He's a henchman.
Okay.
He's a henchman. There's the difference.
All right.
What was it Daredevil said? Trying to just like quote off because I mentioned there was the quote because he said henchmen don't want to work for you, but they're being paid or have to work for you. And goons are your friends who are going to work for you regardless or whatever. Or like,
okay.
Like,
all right.
Henchmen are smart, but don't want to be with you, but have to. And then goons are stupid, and that's why they're there with you. So, So Henry had goons, but he is a henchman to Pennywise.
Okay. All right. I'm visualizing this in my head.
You know,
it's very hard.
He's kind of been forced in that situation while his friends were just there. They weren't forced; they were just done.
No, they were just there.
So yeah, those are character notes. But then I might have some other /
We have to talk about it.
Yeah,
because there are some things.
Right. So again, kind of not very top of the movie, but very early on, before title sequence, the death of Adrian, the character there, and the return of Pennywise. Although I don't know which is the worst monster, a murderous clown or the homophobic garbage that throws you off a bridge. I mean, both of those things are only making the world worse with their existence, right? So
did you recognize Webby, who was the main lead? He was the leader of the homophobic assholes.
Oh, with the Meg Ryan wig? No.
Yes. That was Jake Weary. He played Jeff in It Follows. He was the one who infected Jay.
Got it. Nice.
Yeah. So, Stephen King based Adrian on something that actually happened. Was a hate crime before it was called a hate crime, but back in 1984, a man named Charlie Howard was beat up. The bullies yelled homophobic slurs at him, and they threw him into the Kentuskeg River, and he died. So he based this on a true story.
Yeah.
I got so irritated and fired up about it because I wanted to slap those kids. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not a violent person, but I just don't, I don't have patience for people that are intolerant. And that it fires me up. Right. I can't stand racists. I can't stand people that are intolerant. It's one of those things that just drives me nuts. And so watching it, I was just fired up.
Oh, I'm with you. And it's still, I mean, hey, I live in the South. It's still pretty rampant in a lot of places. And it's hard for me to just be like, come on, it's 2022. Society has evolved past the need for you to exist the way you are. Yeah. It's time for you to stop.
Yes, please.
The world is better than you are right now. So catch up or go away forever. Yeah. I get it. Yeah. There's not a lot of sympathy for it. Yeah.
It makes me sad to think about it now. I'd like to hope that we've come a very long way, but if you look in the news,
not always have we gotten that far. Yeah.
Definitely
in
not.
Some places, in some ways we have, but then in a lot of ways, there's still a lot of work to be done.
Yeah. But it takes people wanting to change and wanting to do better. And that seems to be lacking.
Yep. Back to the movie. I did think it was interesting, though, off of kind of this opening sequence, the fact that Adrian's boyfriend saw Pennywise and the balloons and all of that. So it's not just kids.
No.
And so I was starting to think, okay, so what are the parameters? I mean, of course, because when our Losers Club comes back, they're seeing everything. Obviously, they're being targeted. So I was like, maybe it's anyone who's been able to sever their ties with Derry as an adult. And if they come back, then they're not under that cloud.
Yeah.
So maybe then they're susceptible to it. Or if they've already experienced it before, like in the case of Mike and the rest of the losers that come back, then obviously with it being in their brains and they've been affected and seen it, then it's still there. But I'm wondering, okay, so why are Adrian and his boyfriend susceptible to it?
Yeah.
I was like, well, because, Adrian's not from Derry.
No.
And then Audra was susceptible to it. She's not from Derry in the miniseries, right?
Yeah.
So I think if you're not from there, you're susceptible to it. And then in the case of, I wish I had Adrian's boyfriend's name. I don't.
I think it's Dawn.
That when he grew up in Derry, but then he left and now he's back, maybe he kind of got out of that fog and so it's worn off of him.
Yeah. Ugh.
Like he doesn't remember the reasons he didn't want to come back until he's there. I don't know. But he's
This is something too that was not in the original miniseries, but it did happen in the book, like it was talked about in the book.
Mm-hmm. Now I always thought it was interesting that, then Mike goes to kind of check that murder scene, finds the balloon and stuff, but then we see that it had written, come home on the
Yep.
pillars there. And I'm surprised that it's challenging them after what happened 27 years before. Right?
I know.
You think it would want to keep them away?
Maybe it thought they'd be too scared to come back.
Mm-hmm.
And in Stanley's case, he was too scared.
Yeah.
He couldn't do it again. So he took himself off the board.
Mm-hmm.
Because had he not come back, the 6 of them alone would not have been enough because they would have needed him.
See, we did not talk fortune cookies.
Can we please talk about the Chinese restaurant? Oh
I'm
my
so
God.
glad that this part was done and kind of reimagined in the new version. It was great.
Me too.
It added a little extra cruelty with the fortune cookies that actually had paper in them at first. Guess Stanley could not
cut it. But Beverly already knew. Like, she already knew.
And then the other cookies then, of course, becoming disgusting monstrosities that were just beautiful in their own horrific way. They kept the flying bird.
What about the flying baby head thing?
Oh, right.
That was horrifying. Like, that scared me. I'm like, if I saw this, no. It's like a doll's head with like a doll with wings, and
it was disgusting. It
really was. It's not okay.
Like a bat that never got out of its fortune cookie fully, so you just get the wing circling around.
Trying to flap. It's like, no, this is not good. Not good.
That fortune cookie staring at me.
Yes. And at the end, they're banging the chair on the table, and of course the waitress comes in and she can't see anything. Mm-hmm. Except he's banging the chair.
Yeah, she acted real calm in that situation. He's slamming the chair on top of the lazy Susan on the table and breaking it. Like,
yeah,
is everything okay? Clearly not. But
no, he's banging on a table with the chair and breaking things.
Right.
No, that was crazy.
The fact they didn't get kicked out of the restaurant, then they left. And ran into the little boy that I don't think exists.
Dean, yes, poor Richie. Didn't want a picture with Richie after he creeped him out. It would make sense if he didn't really exist.
Right. Again, I like the theory, and that's why I went with it, just because it adds to Bill's story and the dementedness of it and Pennywise. But then also, then I can be like, well, then we actually didn't have some sweet little kid get exploded in a mirror maze, so that's good.
We already saw poor little Vicky.
Yeah, so we do already have a kid that does not come up with a great the Pennywise under the bleachers with Vicky, which is very sad. And again, he's using her insecurity.
Yep.
He's even not just with the adults, but we see that's a tactic he's really using this time around 27 years later, is insecurity of her being like, you're scary, I don't want to talk to you. And then he can pick up a part that, well, she's probably had kids pick on her and not want to be her friend because of her birthmark. So let me exploit that. Be like, oh, you're right. My face is weird and nobody wants to be my friend. And
yeah,
he knows how to get to her.
He offers to blow away her birthmark And he counts, and she looks at him and says, well, you're supposed to say 3. Well, I think he wanted her to open her eyes so she would see and be scared of him attacking her.
Yeah.
And it was the same little girl that got the little stuffy from...
That Adrian gave.
Adrian.
Yeah. Or was it one of them? That, yeah.
Yeah. I think it was Adrian gave it to her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the only other note I have is it screwing with them pretty quickly once they get into the Niebolt house to head back down into the sewers.
Oh my god.
Which we talked about, Stanley Spider Stan.
Spider Stan.
But then also the other big thing, he's getting at Ben with, carving him back up. They can only see Pennywise through the reflection in the mirror. And I like how it starts with the H in that same spot that he still has a scar from that it shows.
Yeah.
So it's the Henry's H, but then, continues on instead of Henry Bowers. It's home at last.
Who wants to be home in that crazy place? Nobody. And Bev finally, breaks the glass, which makes everything that was happening disappear.
Yeah.
Because it's not real.
Belief.
It's the belief.
If I do this, then it will stop. So it did.
Yeah. It's all about belief.
Yeah. That's my notes.
All right. Let me look and see if I have any more. Nope. I don't think I have anything else. I feel like we have really covered this movie quite well. It's not as long as our last episode.
Mm-hmm. Again, overall, we had a lot more to talk about. I mean, setting the stage in the first part, but then just a lot more to talk about. Those kids gave so much fun performance things to talk about.
They did.
Because I will say, I mean, I enjoy this movie. I actually really like it. And I think the cast did a phenomenal job. But there's just, when the story of it, because it happened in the miniseries too, is it's the kids. It's their story that really grips you the way that it does. The adults are kind of like, it's still good, but
it's not the same. The kids pulled you in. And in this one, for me, Bill Hader just killed it.
And I think it's just the feeling of the underdogs. It's the Losers Club coming together and fighting against all odds. And so when they're children, it adds that much more to the stakes of how much underdogs they are. And strangely enough, I guess just within our brains, it's harder for us to connect a group of adults who are successful and wealthy and living these lives as underdogs fighting together.
I know.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Because they all went off and had their own successes.
Yeah.
And they came back to fight except for Stan.
They're not bullied kids who are leaning on each other. They're successful adults who don't even keep up with each other until now, and they're brought back together. So I think there's a different dynamic,
Yeah, they've forgotten each other. They don't even know. It takes them a minute, and then when they realize, it's like, they freeze because they know it's serious.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the only notes that I have left are those wonderful notes that I give at the end of our discussion.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I'm going to continue then with behind the scenes if you're ready.
I don't know. I might need a few minutes just to sit in silence. No, go ahead.
Okay. So there's a couple things that are kind of pertain to both films. This one is kind of more related to the first one. In Lidditz, Pennsylvania, there was a prank that involved a series of red balloons tied to sewer grates throughout the town, mimicking one of the book covers for It the novel. It really frightened citizens, including the Lidditz police force.
I've been through Lidditz before.
You have?
Mm-hmm.
I think I have as well, right?
Maybe. It's right outside Philadelphia.
All right. It depends on if Ben drove us through there when we were going to Hershey.
Right. Yeah, I guess like between Hershey and back to Philly, I think we probably would have gone, depending on which way we went on that trip. I don't remember.
Yeah. So Pennywise's costume in this film, and the last one, are more faithful to the description in the novel. This is in comparison to Tim Curry's costume in the 90s miniseries, which included orange hair and orange pom-poms going down his silver suit. Miniseries only included the orange pom-poms. The costume designer, Janie Bryant, based the costume design on various eras throughout history: medieval, Renaissance, Elizabethan, and Victorian. The costume emphasizes Pennywise's immortality. Bill Hader was unaware that Bill Skarsgård can actually move his eyes in two different directions. Hader asked Skarsgård what kind of editing was done to achieve that effect in the first movie. Skarsgård, in full costume and makeup, responded by saying, "Oh, you mean this?" and showed him how he could do it naturally, which it startled Hader a little bit.
Yeah, I mentioned it last week on the first chapter. At that moment, Hader did not want anything to do with Skarsgård in costume. At that point, he was very much like, "I'm out. I'm done."
Yeah.
It really messed with him.
So Bill Skarsgård stated he had a lot more fun on the set with the adult stars because he was actually able to hang out with them more. He did not have a lot of contact with the child co-stars in the first movie, so that they'd be more scared of him once they saw him. He also had to calm them down after each shot because he was wicked scary. Mm-hmm. The Paul Bunyan statue in Derry Square was based off the actual Paul Bunyan statue in Bangor, Maine. Bill Skarsgård stated in an interview that after filming had wrapped, he would have nightmares about Pennywise. In his nightmares, he'd have to do battle with Pennywise just like the characters in the movie do.
Interesting.
Yeah. Bill Hader was approached for the role of Richie Tozier based on Finn Wolfhard's wish to cast him in the sequel. Hader, who had never met Wolfhard, was extremely flattered that he wanted him to take on the role. Jessica Chastain was considered for Beverly while the first film was still in production. She was also the first one to be officially cast. Pennywise has only 7 minutes of dialogue in this film, which, he had 4 in the last one, so...
A little bit more.
A little bit more. In the novel, Eddie ponders that he may have married Myra because she reminded him of his mother, and I mentioned this earlier. In this adaptation, Molly Atkinson portrays both Myra Kasprak, which is Eddie's wife, as well as Sonia Kasprak, Eddie's mother. In an interview with Complex, James Ransone stated that he has a lot of tattoos, which were the reason why his character, adult Eddie Kasprak, wore a jacket throughout the film. He wasn't willing to sit in the makeup chair every day to get the tattoos covered.
That's funny. And of course, you have to cover them because we know the character of Eddie Kasprak would never get a tattoo.
Oh my God, no. How
do you know those needles are going to be sanitary? Do you know what kind of infections you can get from the ink? Do you know? Yeah, it would have never happened.
The hypochondriac. When making this movie, Chosen Jacobs had to have wooden risers placed in his shoes because of how much the other losers had grown, which we talked about a little bit. Jess Wexler, who played Audra, was pregnant during filming. And although Audra makes only a brief appearance in this movie, we know that she plays a much larger and crucial role in both the novel and the miniseries. 7 different visual effects companies provided the visual effects for this film. They are Atomic Arts, Method Studios, Rodeo FX, Lola VFX, Cubica VFX, Make VFX, and Soho VFX. And finally, regarding additional installments, Variety reported on March 21st, 2022, that the Muschiettis and Jason Fuchs are in development of and executive producing a prequel series for HBO Max titled Welcome to Derry. It will take place in the 1960s before the events of It Chapter 1 and will also include the origin story of Pennywise the Clown. The plan is for Andy Muschietti to direct the first episode and Fuchs to write all the episodes for the series. Stephen King has said that he would not be involved with this production, but he was looking forward to seeing it.
I've heard of this, and yeah, it was announced earlier this year. There's no concrete plans on release dates or anything like that yet, but I'm very interested. I mean, with Muschietti behind it, obviously.
Makes me feel good.
That gives a huge boost. But I wonder, do they get Skarsgård back to play Pennywise? They kind of have to, right?
Yeah, I would think so.
And I mean, you know, Bill Skarsgård is no stranger to playing a role similar to that in a Stephen King TV series.
Oh, man.
Castle Rock, baby. That's so good. But,
yeah.
So, yeah, I kind of feel like I'm very on board. I want to know. I'm excited about it, especially with Andy Muschietti behind it. But a caveat for me is kind of like, if they don't have Bill Skarsgård, it's going to make me really, really, really worried about it. So it kind of has to in my mind, right?
Yeah, and I didn't look into it any deeper, but I'm interested. It's one of those things that I'm going to follow and see if any other information comes out. Because I don't know.
Maybe it's a TV series, or we don't cover TV series here, but maybe at the very bare minimum, maybe we'll give it the same treatment we're giving Let the Right One In right now.
I hope so. I
least.
love doing that every week. It's fun. It's cool to get to talk about it. Because we don't, as you said, we don't cover TV series, so you and I don't usually break down a TV series ever. Like, we're covering movies all the time, so...
I mean, me and Rima over on Strange Indeed both love our Stephen King. I mean, you know, so I don't know. It depends on what else is going on by the time that show releases. That might become a Strange Indeed.
It could.
Series. That would be great.
It could. You never know what's coming out. I know there's a bunch of them that have not. Well, Sweet Tooth has to be coming soon.
Eventually, yeah. But we've done a lot of Stephen King on. Even though this is not really Stephen King adaptation because it's all new stories.
Yeah.
Based off of the, you know, idea of Pennywise and It. But there's something Castle Rock was too. It's all new stories based off of King concepts. So I say we covered Castle Rock on Strange Indeed. That was before my time as a co-host on that show, but it was covered on Strange Indeed.
Yeah. So. Well, you're the co-host now.
But me and Rima have also covered a lot of Stephen King movies,
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
As far as Castle Rock goes, I really wanted them to do something with Jackie Torrance because she was driving off into the sunset, and I just wanted something. Unfortunately, we didn't. We got 2 seasons of that, and that was it.
Yeah, that was it. But they were 2 great seasons of TV.
They were. It was hard to try to figure out what was really going on. And who was good and who wasn't. Like, ugh.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
Basically, that's it. We have covered this movie.
We've run out. We've done it all with
We finished it.
We finished it. There's no more to talk about. Our time. We've done everything that we can. We've crossed off the list in Derry, Maine. It's time to leave.
Yes.
Man.
We got to get the F out of here.
You sure we don't need to take one more run around the Barrens?
No.
We don't need to go to the Capitol Theater, catch one more show? Well, they're closed now.
Their last movie was
You've Got
Mail. I think that was, what, 1998? 1990?
Yeah, so anything else?
Yeah.
We don't need to go by, I mean, I guess the butcher shop's not there anymore.
No, but you don't need to go by Keen's Apothecary to get some ibuprofen for your back.
We might run through, grab some Tums from Keen's, and then we're hitting the road, I think.
All right, let's get that.
Maybe they got a Red Bull or something in there. That's all. We're good.
All right, let's get out of here. Before we can go, we've got to answer the feedback phone.
All right. See what we got. All right, we do have some feedback here for It Chapter 2 as we have rounded out It-tober.
I know.
Talked it out. Got it done.
Can you believe that we did? Like, it was a lot to talk about.
Yeah, it really was. Especially these Muschietti movies, these last two.
Yeah.
A lot more in depth than even I think I was expecting, but it was
Definitely.
fun. It was so much fun.
Yeah, I'm glad that we did it. It was a great idea. I wish kind of we were ending It-tober with this. But we got that special present for our listeners on Monday.
Got something coming up. Yeah. We'll mention it at the end.
Yes, we will.
Near the end. Yeah, so I'll go ahead and let you take over this first one, though.
All right. Sounds good. So from Tony, thanks for sending in feedback, Tony. Eddie and Richie were my favorite about part 2. Bill Hader and James Ranson. Their dialogue was funny, heartfelt, and sadly the most heartbreaking. The choosing the door scene with the little Pomeranian was hilarious. Yes, it was. Bill Skarsgård was my favorite Pennywise. I did enjoy this adaptation. Book is great, so if you have the time, I recommend it. One big difference in the book was some adults were nice and felt something is off in Derry. Mike's dad, who's alive in the book, and the librarian are both really good people. Ben had a crush on the librarian because she looked a lot like Bev. She wasn't an old lady. Mike's fear wasn't the fire, but a giant bird. There was a werewolf and the creature from the Black Lagoon. A lot of scary stories about the history of Derry made the book just fascinating. Pake, you're going to have to read it.
Yeah, I'm going to carve out an entire year and a half of my life where I'm not doing anything else, and I'm going to sit down and read the book. Once I can find that time. No.
Again, I think we started to try to figure out how long it would take, but then it was too much math.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I own it. It's literally sitting on my shelf right now over there. I look at it every day, like, because it's over by my bed. I'm like, yep, but just haven't picked it up and started yet. Because my arms aren't strong enough to lift it yet.
I know. You might have to start weight training. Can you fit that into your schedule?
It's a big book. Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't want you to hurt your back.
Right. Lift when deciding to read it, lift with your legs, not your back.
Yeah,
right?
Correct.
Mm-hmm. And then we do have one other one right here from our buddy Jerry Gomez, who says, when I first heard about it being produced, I thought about who I would want to be the adult versions of the Losers Club. The only two that I could think of was James McAvoy for Bill and Jessica Chastain for Beverly, and that is with heart eyes emojis all around Jessica Chastain. He goes on to say, you couldn't even see either end of my smile when I found out Jessica Chastain, with emojis, was cast. My heart just about exploded and can only be approximated by the statement, Jessica Chastain, with a plethora of heart eye emojis. And I got my wish for both. So I don't know. I could be reaching here. I could be making assumptions. I'm wrong. But I think Jerry might have a thing for Jessica Chastain. I don't want to assume about somebody, but there's just a little inkling of a feeling. I'm not sure, but maybe.
I think he definitely looks upon her favorably.
Mm-hmm.
I think we can take at least that from it.
Yeah.
Well, if you'd like to submit feedback like Tony or Jerry, you can do so by going to our Facebook page at facebook.com/runforyourlivespodcast. You can email us at runforyourlivespodcast@gmail.com, tweet at us at RFYL Podcast, DM us on Instagram at runforyourlivespodcast, and if you are enjoying the show, tell your friends. We are available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and pretty much all other podcast players, including YouTube. Go to runforyourlivespodcast.com for all the links you'll ever need and give us a review on Apple Podcasts, as that is the best way to share the love and get us out there even more. We really appreciate it.
We do. And speaking of sharing the love about Jessica Chastain, Jerry, did you listen to our coverage of Mama? Did you watch Mama? I don't remember. It's been so long, but she's also in that and it's pretty great. So, if you missed that one, go back for that. That's a fun one.
Yeah.
I just randomly thought of that.
Absolutely.
Anyway, also speaking about sharing the love, we're going to talk about things going on in the podcast universe around us. My other podcast, Strange Indeed, we are working our way through the Netflix's The Midnight Club, and that's been fun. Yeah, it's been fun. It's been really great working through that. Daphne's our unofficial book talk segment at the end of that with her feedback. So,
I love going back through that book. It's just such a fun read, and trying to compare it to the series, it's just great. I'm enjoying it.
Mm-hmm. And then other Podcastica stuff going on. Of course, so much going on House Podcastica and all of its branched out podcasts there. Of course, Dead to Me podcast with Jason, Penny, and Jade going on. They're doing 4 episodes, breaking up the first two seasons into 2 episodes, into 2 halves each, and then they'll be ready to cover season 3 when it drops soon. So if you're a fan of that show and want to go check that out, definitely go look at their coverage over there. Andor still going, I think episode 8 this week. So Jonathan and James covering that on the Star Wars TV cast. Cast of the Rings with Anwen and Penny, I think, is wrapped at this point.
Yep, I think it did wrap up.
That last episode is out now. So first episode of Rings of Power, or first season of Rings of Power, is out. So they've covered all the episodes of that. So go check those out for sure. Dragon Cast is also wrapped this week. I'm like a fourth of the way through the final episode right now, listening to them.
It's a lot.
Always great listening to them. Yeah,
a lot to take in. It was a great episode. Now the wait begins.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
for season 2. I
want season 2, and we're gonna have to wait, and I'm so sad.
Yeah.
But yes, I think, and they're going to do another episode that's like another kind of recap, look back at all of season 1 and their favorite moments and things, and more book stuff later. I'm not sure exactly when, but they're planning on doing that and releasing that after a little while, after we've set on season 1 for a bit. So look out for that as well. And then, of course, the Handmaid's Tale podcast is going strong. That show is just a bundle of joy every week, right?
Every week. Yeah, this week's episode number 8 was a bit rough for me to watch and podcast about, but we only have 2 left. I can't believe that the season is almost over. And then we'll be looking ahead to next season, which is the last one.
Yeah. Also, back on Strange Indeed, because I just thought about it, because we're going to be pitching our special Halloween episode that's coming up soon. So Strange Indeed, we also are doing that, because by the time you hear the next Run for Your Lives, it'll be out. So I'll plug it then too, I guess. But yeah, on Monday, October 31st, on Halloween, Strange Indeed will be releasing a special episode with me, Jason, Rima, and Jade. We'll be covering 1961's The Innocents, which is an adaptation of Turn of the Screw. And so we covered Haunting of Bly Manor on Strange Indeed, which is also an adaptation of that. So that'll be interesting. We'll kind of compare and contrast a little bit, but also just talk about the innocence in that movie and what it is itself. But I'm looking forward to that. That should come out. That'll be out on Monday as well. So recording that like tomorrow. So it'll be fun.
You've had a very busy week of podcasting this week.
I've had a very busy week. But it's been fun. Nothing but fun. Let's see. Anything else? Really, TV podcast industries, of course, working hard. Rings of Power and Pennyworth. Go check out their coverage. Always so great. And then lastly, you got to give that shout out to Walking Dead cast, because they are still going strong in these last 8 episodes of The Walking Dead. And
we only have 4 left.
Man, it's crazy to think.
Yeah.
That time just ticks by so fast. It's already that close to, we're going to be in San Francisco all together watching that finale.
What an experience it's going to be all together, especially, we all have such love for the show. So to be together when we say goodbye to it, I think is just going to make it extra special.
Yeah.
But one cool thing that Jason is doing is these live reactions that come at 10 p.m. Eastern right after the episode airs.
Yeah, go check out the Podcastica YouTube channel. And if you're watching The Walking Dead live on AMC or AMC Plus, then yeah, soon, if it's right when it drops, right when it airs, then when it's over, pop over to Podcastica on YouTube and watch the live reaction. And different people have been over there And yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it definitely
And then
has.
lastly, because I forgot this one as well, Wilhelm. We haven't given them too much of a plug lately. Ben's been super busy with all kinds of other stuff. But Wilhelm will be back for a special Halloween episode as well. Him and Jamie covering their favorite horror movies.
Yeah, the horror remakes, I think.
Horror remakes. That's what it is. That horror movies was last year. Yes, they're doing their like top horror remakes.
Yeah.
So definitely check that out as well. Wilhelm's back.
Yes. Ben's got some great plans for the future with that. So we'll definitely share that info when it becomes available.
Yeah. So yeah, before we give the little tease of what's coming on next week right here, what we've been doing, chatting a little bit of Let the Right One In for those who want to stick around for it. So you can listen in if you're interested or if you're watching, or if not, then skip ahead a little bit, but don't skip too far because you'll miss what we're going to be releasing next.
Yes.
Episode 3, Broken Glass.
What did you think of this one overall?
I also really enjoyed it. I'm still very tied into this story and interested to see where different things go, because I'm seeing, like, I'm piecing together little things in my head. I'm like, oh my God, this leads to this, that leads to this. Like, it's kind of like all these nice little pieces that are lining up to all fall apart at everybody's feet.
Yes.
I feel like there's going to be like major shit hitting the fan by the end of this season, and relationships and trust and different things that are being built right now are going to like come to some major like halts and twists by the end of the season.
Yeah, I think that is going to be a definite. One thing I really loved was Ellie reuniting with Zeke, because she wasn't expecting it. And Mark is in this place where he's concerned for his ability to be able to continue to take care of Ellie. And so he goes to see Zeke. The result of this conversation, Zeke wants to go see Ellie. And their reunion was just heartwarming to see them together, because you can tell how much he loves her.
Yeah, definitely. As her godfather, I really like him, and I don't want anything bad to happen to him.
Me either. I'm so scared.
I'm scared because he was seen with Mark by, I assume, Matthew's guy, henchman, whatever.
Yeah.
So that can't be good. But his interactions with Ellie were really sweet. Their interactions do come with the reveal that he used to donate his own blood for her feeding at one point while her mother was still alive, and that was actually really emotional. And the fact that, because she sees like the kind of needle mark on his hand where he used to pull a lot, and it, makes her think of that, and then her looking at him and just saying, I never told you thank you. And I was like,
Well, because Ellie is a sweet girl. Despite living with this terrible virus or disease, she's a really sweet girl, and she cares about people. I mean, look at how she treats Isaiah. She will go to bat for him when he has nobody else.
Right.
And I really appreciate that, because she kind of did that in this episode. And she took on one of his bullies.
Mm-hmm.
And when their little altercation was over, the bully had just a broken finger. And I was thinking, well, if you think that's bad, maybe you should ask, oh, wait, no, you couldn't, because they're dead.
Yeah, you got off easy, dude.
Way easy.
Yeah, she like snaps his middle finger in half. And then as he's running off screaming, like some of his blood that spurted on her hand, she like licks it off and was like, it tastes like victory.
Yes.
I mean, come on, that kid. The dumbass literally posted his crime on Instagram like a moron.
Like it's something to be proud of. This is how you shoplift. Like, okay, well, I'm pretty sure the next time you go in, they're going to find you. And you're going to be arrested.
Make sure you tag the shop and the location and all that.
Yeah.
Let them see it.
That's social media 101.
Mm-hmm. I did enjoy, again, I like the callbacks to the movies and things. We have the part where Ellie climbs out of her window and goes over to Isaiah's window. Now she's not going inside and saying, hey, can I come in and can I lay with you? We don't have that yet.
No.
But
she's watching.
But she's just watching him sleep. But yeah, their relationship is still really sweet. I think she's definitely falling for him as a friend, but maybe even more.
Yeah.
But then there's also this protection that she just really wants to protect him. So even if that means going to his bully and just snapping his finger in half.
Well, she did try to use her words and it just didn't work.
Yeah.
He wasn't having it. So there was that. Another point that I had was this feeding frenzy crime scene that Naomi and her partner walk into. It's pretty gross.
Mm-hmm.
And that is when Naomi, I think we see this chink in her armor because she's always been so strong.
Yeah.
So poised. But killing a man really threw her for a loop. And the guy, realizing that she shot him twice and he didn't stop.
Yeah.
And so that was a lot. And she kind of bonded with Mark a little bit, talking about it as much as she could say, I guess.
Right. And that's the relationship that it's like even more dangerous than Isaiah and Ellie is. Because at first, is when we see at the beginning of this episode, Mark realizing that, Naomi is a homicide detective, and he's like, well, then we're getting the hell out of here. He's packing up. He's ready to go. And I get it. Like, I understand, you've got to be careful, but Ellie's sick of running.
Yeah.
So she's like, no, I'm not going to go. And then when he goes over there to pick up Ellie, that conversation that you were talking about, I think he starts developing a kinship and a friendship to Naomi, which is very dangerous business. That there's no way that's going to end well.
No, it's not.
Especially because both of them are kind of after the same people / person, even if they don't know who yet, and in different ways and avenues. But what they're dealing with separately is all revolving around the same central story.
Yes.
The same thing. So they're going to cross paths in ways they don't want to. I foresee it, and I'm a little nervous about it, but I'm excited to see what happens.
Me too. He's making dinner, and I'm glad that he had the opportunity to kind of chat with her because it kind of connects them. But talking about Ellie, I mean, she was very serious with Mark about this. If you make me leave, then as soon as you're asleep, I'm going to walk out into the sun. Like, she's like, don't take me away from Isaiah. He means he means a lot to her in such a short period of time.
I mean, that's the first real friend, somebody she's connected to outside of her dad in probably a long time.
Yeah. I think we got that testament to how strong that relationship is, at least on her side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The only other thing that I had was basically Claire is now the leader of Peter's treatment. Her father passed away. She burned all the photos of him.
Right. She's like, well, we're rid of that guy. Bye-bye. Good riddance.
She's upset with Matthew, but she didn't fire him. But he let her know that, yeah, we've been continuing to make the compound that they were not supposed to make, which is what I believe is in the little yellow pills that people are taking on the street and freaking out.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
What's the end game there? What's Matthew up to?
I don't know. But I'm excited for the next episode because I'm all in on this show. I'm really enjoying it. And then last note, that's just a production thing, is I absolutely loved the use of music in this episode. I think their soundtrack choices were awesome. Oh my gosh.
Great music this episode for sure.
Absolutely. I loved, I think it's The 30th by Billie Eilish. Is that it? Is that the song? There was one song, I think, when she was making the mosaic mirror piece.
Yeah, yeah.
I really liked
It's really good.
Yeah.
It's good music for sure. But yeah, I'm excited to see what happens next week.
I know, but we won't be back to talk about this.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of going to be, the rest of the season, or at least up to where it is. I'm not even sure how many episodes they're doing. So
they usually do 10, but I'm not sure if there are 10.
So yeah, so when we are releasing another episode on Monday in a few days, but there won't be a new episode of, well, there will, but not by the time we're recording.
Right.
So
so we will not be able to share our thoughts on this show until we come back in December.
Yeah, but we definitely will.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. And with that, let's go ahead and just, I don't even know why I'm teasing it, because I think we've already said it like several times in the past weeks.
We have.
But yeah, Monday, Halloween. what we got dropping? We're leaving Derry and we're going on an adventure to Haddonfield, right?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are headed to Haddonfield. We are continuing our Halloween trilogy. The first 2 years of our podcast, we did Halloween 2018 and Halloween Kills. You should definitely go back and listen to those if you have a chance over the weekend before we bring you our discussion on the final film in Blumhouse's Halloween trilogy, which is 2022's Halloween Ends.
Yeah. So we will be covering that. We've already recorded it. I'm not going to say anything right now. You're just going to have to wait till Monday to listen to that one. But yeah, go watch the movie if you want to. If you don't, that's fine.
Yeah.
You can listen to us anyway.
Yeah.
But
you should listen to what we have to say. If you're trying to figure out if you should go see it and you're just not sure, listen to our podcast. It might steer you in one way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, we've reached the end of our podcast. Thanks everyone for listening. I'm Daphne.
And I'm Pake.
And if you have to run, you better run for your lives.
Bye-bye.